All right, everybody, welcome back. I think we all know what we're talking about today, right? I mean, you can't really go anywhere these days without hearing at least something about this whole CBDC thing.
Yeah, central bank digital currencies, they're definitely having a moment.
They are, and it feels like things are changing so fast that it's hard to even keep up.
I hear you. There's a lot of noise out there.
So that's why we're doing a deep dive today to really cut through it all.
We're going to try to break down the essentials, what CBDCs are, why everybody's talking about them, and what they could mean, for your money.
Exactly. So let's start with the basics. What exactly is a CBDC?
Okay, well, at its core, it's a digital version of a country's currency. Like, think of it like a digital dollar or a digital euro.
So digital cash.
Yeah, basically. But it's issued and backed directly by the central bank.
Okay, so that's a little different than just like using Venmo or Apple Pay or whatever.
Right, because right now, when you use those apps, the money is still held by your bank. With the CBDC, it's like you have an account directly with the central bank, like the Fed.
Interesting. So no middleman.
Exactly.
Okay, now I know a lot of people hear CBDC and they immediately think about cryptocurrency.
Yeah, I can see why people would make that connection, but it's important to understand that they are actually very different.
So what's the difference?
Well, cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, they're decentralized. That means no single entity controls them.
Right.
CBDCs, on the other hand, are centralized and controlled by the government. It's a big difference.
It is. It's like two totally different philosophies almost.
Yeah, exactly. And we're already seeing these different philosophies play out in the real world. China has already started piloting its digital yuan.
They're all in.
They are. While here in the US and in Europe, they're still kind of in the research phase, being a lot more cautious.
Yeah, it seems like some countries are moving much faster than others. Why is that?
Well, China, they have their reasons. Some experts think it's about having more control over their financial system. Others say it's about reducing their dependence on the US dollar.
Makes sense.
But in the US and Europe, there are a lot of concerns about privacy, about what it could mean for banks and, cybersecurity risks too.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot to think about. Let's talk about some of those potential benefits that we keep hearing about. Like, one I hear a lot is about reducing costs.
Right. I mean, think about it. Printing and distributing physical cash, it's expensive. Moving to a completely digital system could save a lot of money, potentially leading to lower fees for everyone.
That would be nice. What about security?
Well, CBDCs, they could be designed with all sorts of advanced security features built right in.
Oh, that's interesting.
Which could, in theory, make them much harder to counterfeit or, to steal compared to physical cash.
That makes sense. Like a digital vault for your money. What else?
Okay, so another big one is financial inclusion. A lot of people don't have access to traditional banking. But almost everybody has a smartphone these days, right? So with a CBDC, you could potentially access financial services with just your phone.
Wow, that could be huge for a lot of people.
It could be a real game changer. And then there's the speed and efficiency of transactions.
Yeah, think about it. Like, imagine sending money overseas instantly. No more waiting for those bank transfers to clear.
Right, it could really streamline things.
Okay, so those are some potential benefits, but I think it's really important to also talk about some of the concerns because, nothing is perfect. What are some of the worries that people are raising about CBDCs?
Yeah, I mean, there are definitely some valid concerns, and privacy is a big one. If the government is controlling the system, they could potentially track every single transaction you make.
Yeah, that is a little unnerving.
It is, and it raises a lot of questions about how much power the government should have when it comes to our finances.
Definitely. What about the impact on banks? I've heard some people worry that CBDCs could actually hurt banks.
Right, so if everyone starts moving their money out of commercial banks and into these CBDC accounts, it could definitely disrupt the banking system.
And what would that even mean?
Well, it could make it harder for banks to lend money, which could, potentially slow down the economy.
It sounds like there's some pretty serious potential downsides here.
Yeah, there are. And let's not forget about cybersecurity. Any digital system can be vulnerable to hacking. I mean, what happens if someone hacks into a CBDC system?
That's a scary thought.
It is. It could cause massive disruption, not just to individuals, but, to the whole financial system.
Okay, so we've talked about the potential upsides and the potential downsides. It sounds like there's still a lot of uncertainty.
There is.
So what can our listeners do to prepare for this potential shift towards CBDCs?
Well, the most important thing is to stay informed. keep an eye on what your central bank is saying, what's happening with the laws and regulations.
Don't bury your head in the sand.
Exactly. And then, this is always good advice. Diversify your assets.
Wow.
Don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Right.
Explore different options, traditional investments, maybe some crypto. See how CBDCs might fit into your own personal financial strategy.
Be prepared for anything.
Right. And last but not least, embrace the digital world. The more comfortable you are with, using digital wallets, online banking, all of that, the easier it will be to adapt.
Yeah, that's good advice for just about everything these days.
It is.
Well, we've covered a lot today, and it's clear that the future of CBDCs is still very much up in the air. But I think the one thing we can all agree on is this is a topic worth paying attention to.
Definitely. The way we use and think about money is changing. CBDCs are a big part of that.
So here's a final thought for you all to consider as you go about your day. What would it mean if money was programmable? I mean, what kinds of possibilities or problems could that create? We didn't really have time to get into that today, but it's definitely something to think about. And we'll be sure to explore it more in future deep dives. Until then, thanks for listening.